You told a lie today. Maybe you don't remember it. Maybe it felt too small to count. A compliment you didn't mean, a reason you gave for being late, a smile you wore over a feeling you didn't have. Psychologist Bella DePaulo tracked this behavior in a landmark diary study at the University of Virginia and found that the average person lies at least once a day, often without a flicker of guilt. That number should unsettle you, because lying isn't a flaw in human character. It's a feature that was built, tested, and refined over millions of years, and it may be the single most underrated force behind the rise of the human mind. For most of the animal kingdom, communication is honest by necessity. A wolf's growl means aggression. A bird's alarm call means danger. There is no gap between the signal and the truth, because most animals don't have the cognitive machinery to separate what they know from what another creature believes. But somewhere in the deep past, a strange and dangerous ability began to emerge in a small, socially complex primate lineage. That ability was the capacity to model another mind. To understand, with unsettling precision, that someone else's beliefs could be different from your own. And once that gap existed, it could be exploited. Psychologists call this theory of mind, and its scientific roots trace back to a pivotal 1978 study by David Pramack and Guy Woodruff, who asked a question that sounds almost absurd on its surface. Does the chimpanzee have a theory of mind? Their research suggested that some primates could, in fact, infer the mental states of others, predicting what a companion wanted or intended based on incomplete information. In humans, this ability exploded far beyond anything seen in other primates, and with it came something evolution had never fully unleashed before: the ability to plant a false belief in someone else's head, on purpose, for your own benefit. Why would a trait this manipulative be rewarded by natural selection? Early human groups were small, tightly bonded, and fiercely competitive over scarce resources, mates, and social rank. In that environment, brute strength wasn't the only currency of survival. Social intelligence mattered just as much, sometimes more. If you could convince a rival that the best hunting ground had already been picked clean, you kept it for yourself. If you could make an ally believe you were more loyal than you actually were, you secured protection without paying the full cost of that loyalty. Deception, used carefully, was a shortcut to resources that would otherwise require risk, strength, or time. Researchers Richard Byrne and Andrew Whiten formalized this idea into what's now known as the Machiavellian intelligence hypothesis, arguing that primate intelligence evolved primarily to navigate social manipulation, not tool use or environmental problem solving. Their field observations of wild primates documented calculated acts of deceptive behavior, individuals concealing food, faking injuries, or misdirecting rivals to protect their own interests. If intelligence itself was shaped by the pressure to outmaneuver your own social group, then lying wasn't a corruption of human nature. It was one of the engines that built it. But deception alone wasn't enough. A species of constant, obvious liars would collapse just as fast as a species with no deception at all, because trust would evaporate and cooperation would become impossible. So a second trait had to evolve alongside it, one that gets far less attention, but is arguably just as important: lie detection. The evolutionary arms race wasn't simply about who could deceive best. It was about who could deceive without getting caught, competing against a population that was simultaneously getting better at catching liars. This is where the story takes an uncomfortable turn toward the present. Anthropologist Robin Dunbar has argued that gossip itself evolved as a form of social monitoring, a way for early human groups to track reputations, expose cheaters, and enforce cooperation without needing constant direct surveillance. In small hunter-gatherer bands, everyone's behavior was visible to everyone else eventually. A lie told today might unravel in a conversation next week. That pressure shaped not just how humans lied, but how carefully, how selectively, and how convincingly they had to do it to survive the scrutiny of their own community. Consider what this means for the architecture of your own mind. You are not simply capable of lying to others. You are the descendant of thousands of generations who were rewarded for lying well and simultaneously punished for lying badly. That combination produced something strange, a brain optimized not just for deception, but for self-deception. Believing your own lie, even partially, makes it far more convincing to others. There's no flicker of guilt to detect, no inconsistency in your voice, because some part of you has already accepted the fiction as true. Psychologists studying self-deception have proposed that this isn't a bug in human cognition. It may be one of the most sophisticated social tools our species ever developed. Think about how often this plays out in ordinary life. The exaggerated confidence on a resume, the rehearsed sincerity of an apology that isn't fully felt, the quiet inflation of your own accomplishments in a story you've told so many times you've started to believe the embellished version yourself. None of this requires malice. It requires only the same ancient machinery your ancestors used to survive a world where reputation was currency, and being caught in a costly lie could mean exile from the group that kept you alive. Modern life has scaled this ancient system to a size evolution never anticipated, where a Pleistocene liar had to fool a band of perhaps 50 people who would see them again tomorrow. A single social media post can now project a curated, partially false version of a life to thousands of strangers who will never verify a single detail. The gap between what is believed and what is true has widened enormously, while the cognitive tools managing that gap are still running on hardware built for a much smaller, much more transparent world. Every filtered photo, every inflated job title, every carefully staged moment of happiness taps into the same neural circuitry that once helped a hunter-gatherer claim credit for a kill they barely contributed to. There's a darker edge to this as well. The same social intelligence that allows for harmless daily lies is the foundation for more calculated manipulation, from small-scale interpersonal betrayal to large-scale institutional deceit. Political propaganda, corporate spin, and financial fraud all exploit the identical cognitive machinery that once helped a small band of early humans negotiate status around a fire. The scale has changed. The underlying software has not. And yet, this same trait that makes deception possible is inseparable from some of the most valued parts of human connection. The capacity to model another person's mind, to anticipate their needs, to imagine what they're feeling, is also the foundation of empathy, storytelling, and cooperation on a scale no other species has achieved. The ability to understand that another mind holds a different reality than your own is what allows humans to write novels, negotiate peace treaties, comfort a grieving friend, and build civilizations out of strangers who trust each other enough to specialize, trade, and cooperate. Theory of mind is a double-edged tool. It gave humanity both its capacity for profound connection and its capacity for profound manipulation, and there was never a version of this ability that came with only one of those outcomes. So the next time you catch yourself softening a truth, inflating a story, or believing your own excuse a little too easily, consider what you're actually witnessing. It isn't weakness. It isn't a personal failing to be ashamed of in isolation. It's a cognitive tool forged over millions of years of social survival, refined by ancestors who needed it to navigate alliances, rivalries, and reputations in a world where a single miscalculation could mean losing everything. You didn't inherit a flaw. You inherited a weapon, and like every weapon your ancestors carried, its danger and its value were never separate from each other. The lie that once helped a hunter-gatherer survive the judgment of their tribe is the same lie now quietly shaping the version of yourself you present to the world. And the truth you've been telling all along may be less about honesty than about which version of reality helped you survive being seen.